Hello, this is Bill Bullard with RCAF USA, the voice of the independent cattle producer in the United States of America. Well, a May 2017 Wall Street Journal article alleged that the world's largest beef packer, Brazilian-owned JBS, which also is the second largest beef packer in the United States, had admitted to paying about $150 billion, mostly in bribes, to nearly 2,000 politicians. RCAF USA reacted swiftly to this news, and in June 2017, it sent a letter to President Trump, the U.S. Department of Justice, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and the chairman of the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, urging them to initiate an investigation of JBS's United States operations. In our letter, we requested a thorough and probing investigation into JBS's cattle procurement practices in the U.S., its relationships and business dealings with members of Congress, officials and employees of the Justice Department, the Department of Agriculture, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and other federal agencies, and officials and employees of the several state governments within which JBS has sought to influence government action and policies. As part of our request, we asked that JBS's U.S. acquisitions be investigated, including its purchase of the nation's fifth largest beef packer, Smithfield Beef Group, the nation's largest cattle feeding company, Five Rivers Cattle Feeding, the nation's largest poultry integrator, Pilgrim's Pride, one of the nation's 25 largest cattle feeders, McElhaney Cattle Company, and the acquisition of two U.S.-based packing plants previously owned by XL 4-Star Beef. We also asked the government officials to investigate JBS's role in the derailment of the rules the USDA was working on to implement the Packers and Stockyards Act, those were known as the GIPSA rules, and the congressional repeal of mandatory country of origin labeling for beef, and what we called USDA's systematic relaxation of essential disease-related import restrictions for foreign countries, such as the relaxation of foot and mouth disease restrictions for Brazil. The reason I'm providing this background information is because just this month we learned that our concerns related to JBS were shared by at least two highly influential U.S. senators. On October 8, 2019, Senator Bob Menendez, ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and Senator Marco Rubio, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Subcommittee on the Western Hemisphere, wrote a letter to the U.S. Secretary of Treasury requesting that the U.S. Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, known as CFIUS, conduct a review of the JBS transactions in the United States during the past 12 years. The senators wrote that the activities and operations of JBS have implications for our national security and the security of the American food system, and they requested that the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States exercise its authority to review those transactions. The senators also wrote that the questionable nature of JBS's financial practices poses significant risks for its American subsidiaries and the U.S. food system. And the senators wrote that the growing trend of foreign investment in our food system demands increased attention and scrutiny in order to safeguard our nation's food supply. While admittedly, this is just a letter asking for an investigation, not unlike the letter RCAF sent in 2017, it is nevertheless profound. And that's because the October letter was sent by two high-ranking members of Congress, and their allegations now raise the specter that allowing foreign firms to own and control critical elements of our food supply chain can jeopardize our nation's national security, particularly if those foreign firms were engaged in illicit financial activities in order to make their acquisitions. Today, our nation's largest pork producer, Smithfield Farms, is owned by a Chinese company. It should not escape anyone's attention that China remains a communist country. We estimate that about 40% of the beef packing capacity controlled by the largest four beef packers is now owned or controlled by Brazilian companies. It should be alarming to all Washington decision makers that the strongest nation in the world is fast transferring the ownership and control of its vital food processing industries to foreigners. That this threatens our nation's food security should be self-evident. That this heightens the likelihood of food safety problems for Americans is likely self-evident. Finally, the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States should honor the requests of Senators Menendez and Rubio, and we hope they do this quickly. With that, we're out of time. We hope you have a productive week. Thank you, and goodbye.